Man, we are approaching the NFL draft hosted at Lambeau Field. Super excited about it. 6 days, 10 hours, 11 minutes. Just a reminder, leave some comments. Let me know. I'm going to be hosting a draft live on this channel. Let me know if you're interested in joining, whether or not it would be worth it or not. I'm going to be hosting the draft here on this channel. Would love to have you join and get live feedback from you as to what transpires in the draft leading up to the Packers pick and then some. Okay. So who knows? There could be tons of activity happening, and that's what it's kind of trending towards. But there's been some unexpected news that has changed the Green Bay Packers draft. What do I mean by that? Well, you're seeing a lot of articles coming out that the New York Giants have received calls from a lot of teams willing to trade up. So I know, and it hasn't been a secret, that even the Carolina Panthers are looking to potentially trade their pick. And we're going to talk about that more here in a second. But then you've got Aaron Rodgers and everything swirling around Rodgers right now. It says Aaron Rodgers will hand the Packers one final gift if stunning prediction comes true. What is that prediction? Well, the fact that he's still, quote unquote, now call it what you want, but leaving the the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of hostage per se. And he's made it clear, he's come out and said, hey, listen, I'm not holding anybody hostage. That's everybody's choice. I've said, hey, if you need to move on by all means. I'm not committing to anything quite yet. And now we're approaching the draft, as we all know, which means the Pittsburgh Steelers could be selecting a quarterback, and I think they picked 21st. So there are a couple of picks ahead of the Packers, which then that could change a lot of things in this year's draft as well. But when we start talking about quarterbacks flying off the board, it's going to be no secret that the Tennessee Titans are going to be selecting Cam Ward. That is no secret. But speaking of the Tennessee Titans, there is a lot of talk, and it's not a surprise that they traded L'Jarius Sneed last year, and they don't have a third round pick. So Tennessee Titans are going to be wanting to potentially load up on some picks. So there's a possibility that they could be looking to trade the 35th pick, so early second round. So if somebody's looking to either trade back and maybe trade up with the Tennessee Titans, or trade back or whatever, Tennessee Titans are going to be a willing partner. So whether the Packers want to draft at 23 and then trade up with the Tennessee Titans in exchange, they have some additional picks in the 7th round. So that could be something that the Packers could be and would be willing to do. Who knows what Brian Gutekunst is going to do? We do know that there's going to be tons of talent there at the 35th pick overall. So even if the Packers decide to trade out of the first round, we do know that there's going to be tons of talent available, which is great news. So also, the New York Giants flew Sanders. So they picked 3rd overall. So they flew Shadil Sanders into New York yesterday to interview with him. Now, that could be a possibility too, to where all of a sudden you start seeing 2 quarterbacks gone in the first 3 picks, and then you start seeing a panic of teams. You've seen it before in the past, where teams start getting a little gun shy of wanting to choose who they want to choose, but then selecting a quarterback, maybe reaching for a quarterback at times. Jackson Dart is going to be one of those quarterbacks that I think is going to be gone in the first round. Vegas is projecting that there's going to be over plus two and a half quarterbacks selected in the first round, which only helps teams like the Packers when you start seeing quarterbacks fly off the board in the first round. Milroe would be another quarterback that could be potentially gone. So that would be 4. It could be a stretch, but you could be seeing somebody trade into the late first round. So trading into the first round. So somebody like, when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs, somebody could be willing to trade into the late first round to even take Tyler Shook. That could be a possibility. He's an aging quarterback. He's going to be turning 25. And that's somebody that is going to be a plug and play, ready to go right now type situation quarterback. So it could even see somebody reaching for that late first round. Again, that's only going to help the Packers. And then you've got running backs like Genty and Hampton, who will be probably gone in the first round. So what's some continued good news for the Packers that could change the trajectory of how they draft? Okay, so we've already talked about the Carolina Panthers, how they're looking to trade down. And one thing that is, not a surprise is that they do need to load up on some talent. Okay, so they need to bolster their roster. They select eighth overall. And if they're not in love with a receiver or even a defensive end or cornerback at that time, I could easily see a team, trading with them, trading just ahead of the New Orleans Saints to get who they want and maybe the quarterback that they want. So we do know that the New Orleans Saints are probably going to be drafting quarterback. My projection is Jackson Dart there. Okay, so then you've got the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys select 12th overall, and I think they lost a fourth round pick by trading Jonathan Mingo last year. So they're going to want to load up on some day 2 and 3 picks. So Dallas Cowboys could be active in that as well. Then you've got the Atlanta Falcons sitting at 15th pick overall. They only have 5 picks in this year's draft, and they've got to make some extra draft capital there as well. So look for the Atlanta Falcons to maybe trade out of their 15th pick. Wouldn't shock me at all. Then you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I'm looking it up right now. They're 19th. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 19th overall, and their general manager has mentioned that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are willing to move down into the draft board. So that could be an active thing there. Then you've got the Packers. So you've got the Green Bay Packers sitting there at 23, and they're going to have options galore. And I'm more liking the fact that there's going to be a lot of defensive tackles that could be available. We know that Mason Graham is going to be off the board. Walter Nolan could fall to them, and we've already talked about that in a previous video. You could easily see a likelihood where Walter Nolan's available, or maybe even Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. So you could have two really gifted tackles there. So if those guys are available when the Packers select, I don't see Gutekunst passing up on either one of those tackles. Um, I do think Gutekunst is going to go the route of a defensive tackle with their first selection. The more and more you keep unpacking a lot of stuff and a lot of activity, how all this news is coming out where there's could be potentially quarterbacks gone and taken quite heavily before the Packers select. That means there's going to be gifted and talented players dropping that are needs for this Green Bay Packer defense that are going to be dropping to them. And they could even go the cornerback selection. I think there's going to be a lot of cornerbacks there. Maybe they trade up in the second round to go and get somebody as well. But one thing we do know, that all news that keeps coming out leading up to the draft is going to impact the Green Bay Packers directly or indirectly, which is going to be a great benefit to what they do and what they decide to do in this year's draft. I'm pumped. I'm excited about it. I hope to see you here on this channel live for the draft. And as always, go Pack Go.